In this video, we're going to be discussing multiplying and dividing two real numbers. So our rules for this are if these two numbers that we are multiplying or dividing have the same sign, we are going to make the sign positive, and then we are going to multiply or divide, whichever the case may be, their absolute values. If these have different signs, however, the answer to our problem will be negative, and then we will multiply or divide their absolute values. So let's do some examples so you know what to expect as far as work is concerned. So the first problem I have -6 times -11. Notice there are two negative numbers, so that means my answer will be positive. And then I'm going to multiply their absolute values. So absolute value of -6 is 6 times the absolute value of -11, which is 11. So my final answer will be positive 66. So this shows that you know the rule, and then you write down the answer. And again, if you don't know, use your calculator to multiply those two numbers if you're not sure. All right, example B, -5.6 divided by 2.8. So different signs. One's negative, one's positive. So that means my answer will be negative. I'm going to put my parentheses, and now I'm going to divide their absolute values. So the absolute value of -5.6 is 5.6, and we're going to divide that by the absolute value of 2.8, which is 2.8. Again, I would use my calculator. If you, again, don't know how to divide, use your calculator. So divide those two numbers, and you should get 2. So we have our answer will be -2. So again, we showed that we know the rule, and then we wrote down our final answer. Let's try a couple of examples with some fractions. So here we have -4/3 times 1/2. So a negative times a positive means the answer will be negative. Put a set of parentheses, and I'm going to multiply their absolute values. So then you'll have to recall all that information that you learned from working with fractions. So I know, again, I'm going to write down all the denominators and numerators that are primes. Okay, 1 we can write down, 2, 3 is prime, we can write that down. So 4 we can break down as 2 times 2. And if you notice, we have a common factor now in our numerator and denominator. We've got this 2 and this 2, which will divide out into 1. So now we can multiply through, since we have simplified what we can. So my answer will be negative. Again, keep the negative sign. 2 times 1 is 2, and in the denominator, all we have is a 3. So my final answer is -2/3. We look at example D. We have negative divided by a negative. So again, same sign, answer will be positive. And then I am going to divide their absolute values. And going back to fractions, remember, if we divide fractions, dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So I'm going to change that to multiplying by its reciprocal, which is 9/5. All right, then I'm going to approach this just like I would any other multiplying. So if you look, 5, 9, I can leave those. 36, notice 36 is 9 times 4, which works out quite nicely. I will have the 9s here. 25 is 5 times 5. Again, works out nicely because I've got the 5s here. So you can divide out the 9s, and we can divide out the 5s. So that leaves me with positive 5/4 for my final answer. Again, you don't have to write that positive sign, but just to reiterate that the answer is positive.